My name is John Birmingham, and I'm with the supervisors of Upper Mount Bethel. And before we start the meeting, I'll ask, since this is a township sponsored meeting, I'll ask everyone to please rise if you can for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So like I said, my name is John. Also in attendance here, we have Supervisor Albert, Supervisor Friedman, Supervisor Ekman, and we have Chief Jimmy Potter of Portland Hook and Ladder. And the Chief has been instrumental in leading this effort. If I could just ask, for those of you here tonight representing municipalities, can you just raise your hand and tell us what municipality you're representing?
Jennifer Reese, East Bender.
Portland Borough.
Yes. Okay. Anyone else?
Lower Mount Bethel Township.
Thanks.
Lower Mount Bethel Township. Wingate Borough.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. So this meeting is going to go until 8 p.m., so everybody can get home and watch the presidential debate tonight. And so we'll be done by 8. But this meeting is not for the politicians to talk. It's for Bob Madoff, who is the CEO of Centronia, and I'm going to turn the floor and the mic over to him. And Bob, they can ask questions during the presentation?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, let's welcome Bob, and thank you for your time for coming here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chief Potter. I appreciate the opportunity to come be invited to present a little bit about Centronia Ambulance, who we are, what we think, how we operate, and what possibilities are in our future. So with me is Kim Blehar, Director of Marketing and Development. We are, well, let's go. Let's hit the slideshow. So a little bit about me. Many of you, or some of you in the room, know me. You remember me from days in Northampton County. I spent 25 years in Northampton County government. I was a deputy sheriff for a while, got involved in the 911 operation, wound up in emergency management. The last 8 years, I ran emergency management services for the county, which oversaw the 911 center, emergency management, and homeland security. So I've met many of you, worked with many of you. It's good to be back in Northampton County. I spent some time out in Harrisburg. I was appointed by the governor to run all the 911 centers in Pennsylvania for a couple of years. Then I thought driving to Harrisburg was old. I decided to get closer and go to Philadelphia, because on the map, University of Pennsylvania is a lot closer than Harrisburg. Turns out it was the worst commute. So I was at the University of Pennsylvania for a little while, running their emergency operations, and then I came to Centronia about 7 years ago. 3 years I spent as the Chief Operating Officer, the last 4 years now as the Chief Executive Officer. About Centronia, we were established in a small village outside of Allentown in 1955, so next year's our 70th anniversary, started by 8 volunteers. They used S&H green stamps to buy their first ambulance. I kind of like to tell that story because those of us that remember S&H green stamps, it brings a little chuckle to it. We had glasses and hampers at our houses, but they had enough fortitude and created Centronia Ambulance Corps back in 1955 with a corps of 8 people. We're a 501c3 organization since 1967, and we currently still operate our headquarters out of South Whitehall Township. This is a shot. I think the chairman's going to have the PowerPoint to email out to everybody afterwards. This is just who we are. Myself as the Chief Executive Officer, Amy Ninus is our Chief Financial Officer. Carrie Fry, she's newer to our organization. She's our Operations Director. She came out of Berks County recently. Then we have the rest, and you'll see that when we have it. The reason we show this is it's the depth of our business. It tries to show a little bit about the span of control we have. We can go to the next slide. We have almost 200 full-time and part-time employees. We're a fairly large organization. We still do have people that volunteer. which is great. They volunteer in various roles. They do board work. They do work in our special events. They also do instruction. They do all kinds of extra work for us. So we've grown. We've grown from 8 volunteers in 1955 to almost 200 people in 2024. Currently, we have about 130 square miles that we cover as an emergency services area, meaning 911 coverage. Almost 250,000 people that we have lives that we cover. Bushkill Township over in Northampton County is the newest area that we started to work in back in May, which I think is probably a little precipitous as to why we're chatting. We cover South Whitehall, Upper Mac, Whitehall, Lynn, Weisenberg, parts in Berks County. So we have a fairly large footprint from an emergency services side. Our non-emergency is about 5 counties. It's all the ring counties around us. It's Lehigh, Northampton, Bucks, Monroe, Carbon, and Schuylkill. Currently, we operate 1 headquarters in South Whitehall, and we have 5 substations that we operate, the newest one, again, being in Bushkill Township, 1 in Lynn Township, Upper Macungie, Weisenberg, and Whitehall. One of the common things you'll see in here is we generally wind up partnering with a fire department, because that helps us with the relationship, right? We're co-located with fire people that we get to train with, we work with together. It really helps develop a good bond. So, and it cuts down on my overhead, to be honest with you. That way I don't have to buy buildings. But it helps us develop that relationship. Currently we have 21 ambulances, 24 paratransit vehicles, supervisor vehicle, special services unit. We do rehab work in the Lehigh County section for fire calls, and that's what we do with that. And we have 5 safe cars. But those are low acuity calls, so if we need to move somebody from a hospital to a residence and they just need a ride, that's the service we provide for them. We operate a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week communication center, which kind of makes us unique amongst ambulance corps. There's only a few of us in the region that operate their own ambulance or their own communication center. We get feeds from Lehigh County directly into our CAD. We get a feed from our information from Northampton County, and Berks County calls us directly with the 911 calls. And we always have at least 2 people present. Most times we have up to 4 people working in our comm center that help coordinate all of our activities. We have a marketing and public relations program. Kind of want to highlight some of the things that we try to make sure we do is get out and embed ourselves in our communities. We do participate with all the communities that we serve 911, from their night at the movies, fireworks, carnival. We recently just did our first Bushkill Township Carnival, and we really enjoy helping embed ourselves with the community. Our fundraiser events are under the 2023 events. We do a fundraiser for Night on Broadway. Our headquarters is on Broadway. We do a Children's Day. That's a really big event. Usually a couple hundred kids come out for Children's Day. Golf outing, pickleball has kind of become popular. We do that, and we do a health and wellness expo. We did over 278 standbys last year, and they include special events like I was mentioning. But more importantly, we did about 358 fire rehab calls last year. So that way we come as part of your response and help make sure your firemen go through a rehab program, make sure they're hydrated and their vital signs are monitored. And we do that. And we also support our local fire departments by attending and providing services at all their live burn events and training events. So it's kind of a thing that we want to make sure we're there. And again, it's a great opportunity for our crews to work with the firemen. We're a state accredited EMT training organization. We've recently obtained Department of Veterans Affairs. We're qualified to do veteran training now for the VA. Also for GI Bill. We partner with the Moorkirk Institute and the Reading School of Health Sciences, which develops our paramedics in the region. So we participate with them as well to help career development for us. Internally, we always operate with scholarships for our EMTs and associates. So we try to grow our own staff. Employment, headaches, everywhere, right? Every industry, every field, no different in EMS. We try to bring people in at the basic level of paratransit, give them scholarships and training for free to get them to EMT, and then we give opportunities for them to go on to become a paramedic. So we really try to grow our own. We offer programs through the American Heart Association as well as Emergency Care and Safety Institute, and that's part of what we bring as an organization to the municipalities we serve. We have our own QA program, of course, right? You're required to by law, but our medical director helps oversee that. So one of the things that we do on a regular basis, well, on a daily basis, we review call times from the day before, response times, how many calls we had, how many calls we handled, how many mutual aid we provided out, how many mutual aid we provided or we were required. Our patient care reports are all examined. They go through some computer systems to make sure, and all the low volume, high acuity calls, meaning your tricky procedures, cardiac arrest calls, things of that, they all get reviewed. You're going to have a real hard time seeing this slide from back here. What this shows is our funding, how we get our money. 82+% of it is from transport fees. That's really the bulk of where we get our money. For us, we use less than 1% comes from any municipality. We don't do a lot with our municipalities on funding. As our business model allows us to kind of use our non-emergency and our paratransit work to help offset some of the losses in 911 to help us do that. So that's just, you'll see that on the PowerPoint when you get it, but it's tricky to see. We do offer a subscription program, which I think most services do, $60 a year for an individual, $85 for a household. It's interesting, that's evolved over the past number of years. Subscription services used to be that we would cover your entire deductible. Well, deductibles have changed. We used to have a 25 copay going to the doctor, now you have a higher copay. So we do 50% of that as opposed to 100%. We're pretty far ahead of it. Last year, we responded to over 16,000 emergency calls, 6,000 non-emergency transports, and 21,000 paratransit wheelchair assist calls that we did last year. We're the largest EMS agency in Eastern Pennsylvania as far as the region goes. We're number 2 for emergency calls behind the city of Allentown. They do about 17,000, 18,000. We do 16,000. We're a healthy business. As a 501c3, you can go on any number of websites and download our 990s, and you can see our health of our organization. We changed our model from, we used to be called high performance. We want to be highly reliable. That's our motto. We're highly reliable. High performance used to indicate that we would just move trucks around, stage them everywhere. Now we look at the work, make sure we have enough trucks on to cover the work we have. What makes us a little different is we use proprietary algorithms to analyze our call volume. We do that on a reoccurring basis. So every 20 weeks, we're looking at the last 20 weeks worth of calls, where they were, how long they took, and making sure we can make adjustments to staffing through that. We use a third party to do a survey, which would be the results of that survey are available to our government agencies that ask the patients, how are we doing? What did you like? What didn't you like? Number 1 feedback is Pennsylvania roads. Nothing we can do about that as an ambulance, but that's what we hear about. We constantly reinvest in our capital program, so we keep up with technology in our vehicles. Like our paratransit fleet turns over every 3 years, where we completely turn it over. Our ambulances, we try to, well, in this market, we try to buy as many ambulances as we can every year, because they're just a little hard to come by. And there's a long list of things that we're licensed to operate in the state of PA. Everything but critical care transport, which is like the medevac folks, we're licensed to do in PA. So we have every other license that we hold. Why would you be interested in us? I think we've delivered a high level of service to the communities that we do serve. We do have experience working in rural areas, parts of Lehigh County that are rural, even more rural than here. Many community outreach programs that we do, national night outs, teaching people in the community. Our scale is what makes us successful. Some people go, oh my God, you're a big agency. What's going to happen? We're going to get lost in the shuffle. It's what helps us be sustainable. And we invest a lot in technology. So, this is kind of going quicker than I thought, probably because I'm talking too fast. But the thing I would say, the steps that we want to hear about, and again, I appreciate being invited to come talk to you guys, is we need to know what your expectations in the community are. What is it that you're looking for? What services do you want? How do you want your system to work? The next thing we need is data. And I know that the chief's been collecting data, because we can put this data into it and analyze all kinds of if you tell us what you need, we can apply this data, find out what services are needed, and then we can talk about a system design. What's it look like? Does it look like something that we have today? Does it look different than what it is today? There's a lot of opportunities for us to do that. Okay, this is the fun part. Yes, Anne Marie.
Okay, I have several questions for you, Bob.
And Anne Marie, just if you can ask, right here. It's hard to see me, I know. If you can ask your question, I'll repeat it so people who are watching from home can hear the question.
Oh, okay. What is your drop-dead number of calls to justify a truck in any area? Like, what is your algorithm?
We don't use an algorithm like that. We use a business mix.
Okay.
So we not just like, for example, Bushkill.
Right.
If you look at Bushkill and you just look at the emergency call volume, you won't figure it out.
Right.
And Bob, what was the question? The drop dead number of calls?
Anne Marie was asking, like, what's the smallest number of call volume that we would utilize for a truck?
Yeah.
Right.
And because we do other lines of service, it's the mix of that we look at.
Okay. Do you do staging? Like, if you would come to, I'm going to say the Slate Belt, that would include all of us.
Hey, Anne Marie, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking of something. There's a mic right there, right next to Cindy. Cindy, if you could just raise your hand. That's our wonderful township secretary.
All right, how about if I just come and sit next to
This way people at home can hear the questions.
Okay. How's that?
How's that, Stavros?
Okay. So staging, right now, as I'm sure you're aware, if the service that presently provides, they get called out and all of a sudden some trucks get shifted. So how do you address when a truck is out on the call?
So when I took over 4 years ago, Citronia used high performance EMS, and we used to do truck movements all the time. And we analyzed that, we did a study on it, and we found it really wasn't effective, because if I move my marble from here to here, the call is going to wind up being back here anyway.
Right.
So we do very minimal truck movement. We focus more on providing the right level of service from the beginning. Like our software that we look at even looks at simultaneous calls. So we will have an idea that on Monday at 2 o'clock, there's a high probability that we're going to have simultaneous calls. What we can never answer for is there's an accident that involves multiple patients.
Right.
It could take, one incident could take every resource away from us.
Okay, so the original Medic 9 was located on 512
Right.
because that kind of centrally located us to get to all sectors of the Slate Belt. Where do you see Citronia being housed if you come up to the Slate Belt?
I haven't had the foggiest idea. And I'll tell you why, because it's going to take a look at the data, where the calls are now, where the calls are coming from, where they're going to, what's the destination, so that's our time on task. How long are we taking the call that would be stationed out of that unit, how long till they're back? And then we got to look at what municipalities are interested in joining the service. So until we know some of those questions, it's very hard to say it would be here, here, and here. Because if 2 or 3 municipalities say yes and 2 or 3 say no, that could create a gap, a bridge need to be done. Like, I don't know yet.
Okay. And how short-staffed are you? I mean, it's a countrywide problem. You and I both know that.
Paramedics, like overall, we're down about 3 FTEs.
Oh.
I'm fully staffed
That's not bad.
EMTs. I'm fully staffed paratransit. I'm probably overstaffed on EMTs.
So if you would come to the Slate Belt area, you're looking at BLS and ALS trucks or,
ALS,
again,
The system design could encompass everything from ALS to BLS to chase trucks to intermediate support. That's kind of the important thing about our license, is we can do intermediate support, we can do ALS, we can do BLS, we can do squad work, we can do, so honestly, I think industry-wide, we're going to go back to more of what we experienced when we first came in,
Yeah,
because it's better to have a BLS truck get there quickly, establish care, have a chase truck come and
Right.
get support. So, you know, those of us that started in Medic 1, 9, or 5, or 3, depending on what part of the region you were from, that's probably where we're going to be back.
yeah, and Pike County still does it. They still have their chase trucks.
Correct.
Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have questions for Bob? Yeah, come on up, Chief.
How you doing, Bob?
Very well, thank you.
I'm Chris Finan, the Chief of Mount Bethel Fire Company. A big problem we're having with our current provider is response times, especially in this area. You mentioned you serve a more rural area than this. What is your average response time for that area?
Typically 12 to 15.
Really? Thank you. That was it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's been the concern, I think, for most of the municipalities who have attended these meetings, is the response time. Any other concerns from
Yeah. I mean,
fire department?
If I could just jump on that one a little bit more, because that sounds like a really easy, good answer. Again, there are things that we all need to be aware of. One of the things is the changes in the state protocols, which now for BLS calls, they're saying no lights, no sirens, which means I've got to drive from point A to point B like everybody else. That's going to drive up our response time. Obviously, the logic is it's not a acute call. It's not mission critical. But to answer your question, Chief, that's why we look at them every day, Monday through Friday. We examine them. What happened? Where was it? Why was it more than 12 minutes? That's in a rural area. 8 minutes is our marker inside our urban district, which there's no urban up here, so it's okay. We don't have to worry about that. But we look at it, and then we document why it happened. So one of the things that we're really not caught flat-footed on is nobody's calling us going, hey, it took 41 minutes to get to a call. Yeah, we already know that. We would have known that, would have addressed it.
Any other questions?
How many municipalities do you need in the Slate Belt area to be feasible for you guys to come up here?
That's a bit of a work in progress. The question is a very good one. It's not 100%. It's not a lot, but it's again, it could be, if it's patchy, it becomes problematic. So I'll throw some examples out. If Mount Bethel or Upper Mount Bethel's in, Lower Mount Bethel's in, but Washington, Bangor, and somebody else are not in, it's harder to create a system for a smaller area. So it's kind of, it depends. Now your proximity to things depend too. If they'd open up 611, that'd be a great thing because that cuts us off. Look at for the response time. But most would be good. I know.
And Chief Potter, you said you had received the data from all the municipalities except, I think it was Washington.
Washington.
You're waiting for?
Washington, yeah. And like I had mentioned, Chief Cortazzo, Plainfield Supervisor Fairchild said that they wanted out. I don't know if that was through the township or who that was, but that was the last that we had heard. And we haven't heard anything back from them.
Yeah, I received an email. I mean, I could go back and find who the email was from, but
Page.
was that who it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
The borough manager, township manager.
Yeah, just emailed and said Plainfield was out. But everybody else still seems to be in.
Yeah, and I think, having gone through some process like this before in other places, until we look at the data, until we hear from you what your expectations are, until you're shown a system design, you may not be interested today, maybe interested tomorrow. You may be interested today and not interested tomorrow, right? Like we need to see what comes out of the analysis and the process, and does it make sense for your community to participate in it? That's what it comes down to. It's not a commitment today is throw the data in the pool. Let's see what happens and say, okay, this is how it would work. This is what we think it would work. And then you as the municipal leadership go, yeah, but I want this. Okay, well then we have to go back and talk about your expectation versus the service that we can deliver. Because one of the things that we try very hard to do is if we say we're going to do something, we're going to do that. We're going to commit to that. And we usually commit to it. Not sure how you do your assignments here. Usually it's a contract. And we've done multi-municipality contracts as well. So there's contractual data that is required of us to provide.
So you're saying there would be an agreement between Centronia and all the municipalities participating?
It could.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. That's the way we do it in several of our arrangements. Some are multi-municipality, some are individual, one municipality. I mean, let's face it, like Whitehall Township has like 35,000 people. That's a single contract, right? They have call volume that doesn't require it. When we get out to Greenwich and Albany, which is way more rural than up here, like it needs to be both Albany and Greenwich, which is different.
Now, you had mentioned earlier about how you get funded, where your fees come from, and you mentioned fees for municipalities are small, but can you give an explanation or an example of what kind of fees you'd be looking for?
Well, looking for is always a different question. I'll tell you, we were doing a similar exploration further into Berks County, and it involved 2 municipalities, and we gave a proposal that said we don't need any municipal support if it's the 2 municipalities. And the one municipality says, well, I don't like Harry, so we're not going to work with them. And then I said, well, okay, then we can't do that without municipal support. So again, until we dig in.
Now, do you have everything you need in terms of the data?
So far I haven't seen any data.
Okay,
yet.
so
Okay,
Chief's going to get that to you. Okay. And of course, Plainfield, if Plainfield wants to jump back in, you guys are, of course, welcome to. Yeah, any supervisors have any questions?
No, we had met with Bob earlier. He probably covered it well then. He covered it well now.
Thank you.
Okay. Chief, any questions?
No, I think we just, I mean, we'll get hopefully we'll get Washington's data if they want to get in, and I'll meet with Bob, or I'll email everything down to Bob. He can get it in his system, see how many trucks he can provide, how many we would need, and see how many municipalities would be interested in moving forward.
Okay, and I think another thing for those who are representing municipalities who are here tonight, is if you want to email the group or just email me or the chief and let us know what your expectations are so we can get them to Bob, and Bob can say, yeah, we can address that, or, you know, we may not be able to.
Right, and what I mean by your expectation is in municipality A, do you expect to have a dedicated unit to you, or are you willing to share a resource in an area that we could demonstrate how the call volume would work? Like that's kind of what we really do. Like in the southwest portion of Lehigh County, we're at Weisenberg Station because that does really well for Low Hill Township, and it does well for Albany and Greenwich Township. We need to know anybody that says, no, I want one truck in my thing all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because that's a whole different metric to look at.
Right, right. Any other questions? Yeah, come on up, Chief.
How many units do you have in Bushville currently?
The question was, how many units does Centronia have in Bushkill?
Right now, one.
Is it BLS or ALS?
ALS.
The question was whether the one ambulance in Bushkill is BLS or ALS, and Centronia responded ALS. I feel like Al Michaels or something.
I know, it's like, yeah, this is pretty cool.
And that was a beautiful shot.
We can do a teleprompter and draw. But again, the way I envision this kind of rolling out, because I'm not trying to hold back on what I'm thinking, I'm just trying to make sure I set a realistic expectation that the system designed for this area may not look like what a system currently looks like. It may not be an ALS truck parked here that serves here and moves around. It may be multiple BLS trucks supported by an ALS squad. It may be 2 ALS squads supporting something. It may be an ALS truck. Like I don't know yet, because there's some geography here that's a concern for me. You know, coming from up here to Lower Mount Bethel's a road, right? Like, and we want everybody to have the same level of service as best we can, and make sure that the municipal leadership understands that if you're at the tips, that could be a little different.
And something else to keep in mind, Bob, is that we've got this development going in down on River Road.
Right.
So when that's fully developed, you're going to have, could have anywhere from like 20,000 employees, maybe more.
Well, hopefully they get sick. 20,000. Like Dorney Park is a really nice thing, because that's 25, 30,000 people coming every day to Dorney Park. That's a little mini town that pops up every day for us.
Yeah.
And they have everything from slip and falls to medical events because that's that many people. It is a game changer when you add 10 or 15,000 employees to a district.
Yeah.
And we've worked with industrial. So in Upper Macungie, we have a number of industrial sites.
Does anybody have development in your municipality that we should make Bob and Centronia aware of?
George, you had a question, I think. Did you?
Yeah, I forgot. Is your Bushkill truck, is that all 911 calls, or is it committed to 911 calls? Do they get committed on transports or not?
I'll let John repeat it.
So the question was whether the ambulance in Bushkill is committed to all 911 calls?
It's dedicated 911. They don't do any transports.
I'm not throwing darts, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Now, if that truck's out for an hour, who backs them up?
It's just we go with the county system. We've designated everybody that our partners are.
Okay.
Yeah, no different than when we show up in Bangor, because we've been named to back up others. So, yeah, but no, we don't use. The last couple of years, we've gotten away from using a mixed truck, because I want dedicated 911 trucks and dedicated transport trucks. The dedicated transport trucks, the staff is usually really happy because they go from controlled environment to controlled environment, and we find that a lot of our senior personnel, it helps extend their careers because they're not out there climbing steps in car accidents and stuff like that.
So, basically, if your truck's out, Nazareth would come in with an ALS truck. That's what I was just curious.
Yeah, right. It depends on where the call is in the zone. I would defer to AJ because he understands Northampton County zones better than I ever did back. I let them handle that. But yeah, we have it broken down by zone. 1, 2, 3. Who comes in after us?
Okay.
Yeah. But we never use that truck as a transport.
So looking at, let's say, all the municipalities that we've invited, let's say all of them sign on. I know I'm not trying to hold you to an answer, but how many trucks or how many ambulances would you think would need to be in the area?
I have no idea until I really look at the call volume mix. So like what we look at in addition to the call volume is what kind of call it is, ALS or BLS. And then like we can tell from the dispatch, from the times through dispatch to when they get back. I don't need to know exactly what hospital they're going to. I just know how long it takes them to get back from that hospital. So it gives me an idea. So if most of your patients up here are going to either Lehigh Valley, Pocono, or Anderson, or something like that, then I can kind of have an idea how long it takes to get back, because that affects the system design, where you have 3 trucks, but if one truck goes out in a call and it takes them 2 hours to get back, that makes a whole difference. So for us, an example is Whitehall. That's a call is 45 minutes, because it's urban area to an urban hospital. It's pretty quick. In Lynn Township, that's an hour and 45 minutes. So we schedule appropriately.
Now, some, I know residents I've spoken to have said when they get picked up by an ambulance, they request to be taken to a certain hospital, and sometimes they get pushback. How do you deal with that situation?
Unless there's a medical reason that you need to be going to a trauma center versus a regular non-level 1 or level 2 trauma center, we wherever you want to go.
Okay.
I mean, wherever it's medically appropriate too. Like, I just gotta be a little careful there, because
Yeah.
like, if you're having a stroke, we're gonna try to get you to a comprehensive stroke center.
Yep.
Not somewhere where you wind up having to get transported again.
And when Chief Potter gets you the data, how long do you think you need before you can say, hey, I want to meet again?
I just need to see what kind of format it's in. Like, is it electronic? Is it, Excel spreadsheet?
I just have copies of them. A couple of them I got.
Yeah, we may have to just go back and forth a little bit on the format for the data, just because we're putting it in software. If it's electronic, it's much easier, because then we can move the data around, and if it's all manual, that's a lot of entry.
Yep.
I got a couple emails from municipalities said, Jimmy, we had 155 BLS calls and 28 ALS.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah.
I'll send because it's that doesn't help, because we're going to look at it for is, of those, how many happened at the same time, how many happened these hours, because generally in my experience, Sunday morning is a low call volume time in my world. Generally, Wednesday at noon is a really bad time, because that's when it seems we have a lot of calls, which is, we keep track of that.
Yep.
And again, the one thing we always have to explain is no system is perfect, right? This is not a panacea that we're going to walk in if we can all work together and create something that's impervious to fault. It's going to take one accident at 191 and 512 with 5 victims, and it's going to sap everybody. It happens. You get one little mass casualty thing going on, and now there's no resource.
Chief, so
Yes, sir.
for our next meeting, do we want to wait until Bob has had a chance to analyze the data?
I would think, yeah.
Okay.
We'll get all the data to Bob. He can get
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
I think
And
we
maybe
may have
we'll
had one
reach
more
out to the
question then.
municipalities again.
Yeah. Okay. Does that work, Bob?
Yeah, I think we just had another question, I think, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys use the local fire companies to assist on calls, especially if you're a distance out?
So
we
let
work
me
with
just
all-
say the question. For those listening at home, the question was, do you work with local fire departments?
Will you request the fire company to assist in a call?
And will Centronia request the fire companies to assist in a call?
Yeah, we have fire departments that we work with that are state certified Department of Health QRSs, and we certainly welcome them on any of the calls that they go on. Usually it's like the big 5, unconscious, cardiac arrest, things of that nature. But if there's a delay in care, yeah, we'll ask for the most appropriate people to go, unless you're already automatically dispatched. Like in many cases, our fire department QRSs go out with us. But yeah, and again, I would probably need to check with the county to make sure that they have a system that allows for that to happen. Lehigh County does. And it's been 10 years, so I don't remember what we do here.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, can you just talk into the mic, please? Thanks, Jen.
Lehigh Valley, St. Luke's, the hospital systems, do you have a relationship with them, or are you strictly solo? You know,
Yes.
Like any programs that you're on with them?
We work with Lehigh Valley a lot, and we work somewhat with St. Luke's. But that's on the non-emergency side of the house. On the emergency side of the house, it's agnostic. Doesn't really, it's closest appropriate facility.
Anyone else? Any other questions? All right, I think we'll call this meeting. Bob, thank you so much again for coming and speaking tonight. And then Bob will get the data from Chief Potter, and once Bob gives us a date, and says, I'm ready to come speak about the data, and I can speak more about the logistics and providing service, and then we'll schedule another meeting here. Sound good, guys? Okay, thank you, Bob, so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any fire folks that are here, they should reach out to their municipal officials.
Thanks, Stavros. Any firefighters here tonight from outside of Upper Mount Bethel, reach out to your elected officials if you want them to be part of this program, and they're not yet. So again, we're still seeing if this is going to work for all of us. We're in it together, but I just wanted to raise that point. Thank you guys, and thank you for all that you do.